Hi guys, this is Uldouz and welcome to the Uldouz Show. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Laila Mickelwait and she's the CEO and founder of the Justice Defense Fund and also the founder of Trafficking Hub. So thank you so much, Laila, for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on. Like you're like an angel, fighting against trafficking and like non-consensual distribution of images and videos and things like that. So you're like my hero. Thank you so much for doing this.
That means a lot coming from you because I admire you so much. And I just think you're so courageous and so incredible for the advocacy that you've done and continue to do. So I'm just so honored to be able to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, together we can like team up and like take over the world against all these like predators that are profiting from these poor underage girls and boys and women and men and all that stuff. So can you just tell me how like you got started with all this? Because for me it's like I was one of the victims and that's how I learned. Like I learned the hard way, like all the ins and outs of all of the stuff that happens to people. And with you, like how did you get started? What made you so passionate about this certain topic or issue?
I grew up in a family where my dad was always very interested in human rights issues and encouraging me and my sisters to, instead of watching entertainment on TV, we were watching the History Channel and documentaries about, human rights issues and things like that. And he grew up in the Middle East in the midst of wartime himself. So he was just very attuned to, the suffering of others and of human rights issues. And I feel like he instilled that in me from an early age. And some of our most important like bonding moments, father-daughter, were debating and discussing things like this, so I took an interest in human rights issues all the way from poverty to homelessness to war crimes and all this different spectrum of abuse. And I know that there was a year early on, it was before it was a very popular topic that it is today, that not many people knew the word trafficking at that time. And I remember watching a TV documentary about girls and women who were held in sexual slavery in India. And I think it was in the city of Calcutta, if I remember correctly. And watching that documentary had such an impression on me. And I just wanted to learn more about what this thing was, this modern day slavery, sex trafficking. It was hard to believe that this was actually still going on today. And so I just kind of focused my studies in that direction and internships and things like that, and just worked and researched and decided that that's really what I wanted to focus on. And I did. And I've been now focused on that issue of sex trafficking, which is expanded to other forms of criminal sexual abuse, like rape on film and criminal non-consensual distribution and reporting of content online. And so I've been doing that now almost 15 years. So it's been over a decade that I've been working on this. And then about 8-9 years ago, I started to look into what I call the big porn industry and the intersection between criminal sexual abuse, child exploitation, and non-consensual content trafficking in the big porn industry. And that's when I came upon Pornhub, like anybody would be if they were looking into that industry. And that's kind of how I got started.
Got it. Wow, that's like really impressive, because I'm like, to me, it's like, for someone to start engaging in this like topic, without having the experience, it's such a nasty business, and it's so like, sickening to your stomach that it's just like watching somebody else go through that. It's like, I mean, it's almost like you feel like worse, because you're just like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And I think it's so easy for people to just like dehumanize, people that it's happening to, and just kind of like look at the issue as like something that's over there, when it's like, for instance, like you watch the trafficking documentary, but it's in Kolkata, and they're like, okay, well, that's over there. But people don't realize that this happens you can happen to your own daughter in your own house, like without you even knowing, right? So that's the issue, is that people just
100%.
see that issue as something over there, but it's actually happening here. It could happen in your house,
100%.
so
Absolutely. I think you're so right about that. And the fact that people can often feel distance from these kinds of abuses because, like you said, they think that it's some kind of exotic experience that happens in other countries and places that they don't relate to. But the reality is, when it comes to sex trafficking online, child sexual abuse material, the non-consensual distribution of images, this is happening 2 clicks away from everybody.
yeah,
On the world's largest and most popular porn sites, right under their noses, hidden in plain sight. And like you said, it could happen to anybody, and it does happen to any and everybody. This happens to just unsuspecting teens that are sexting, because that's just so popular in today's culture, this digital age where everybody's online and kids have tablets and phones and things like that. And then those images get out of their hands, and the devastation that it can cause into the life of the victim is inconceivable. I mean, it's just levels and levels of trauma that happen, and it could happen to anyone, and it does. And so I think that's such an important thing for us to recognize and make people aware of, is that this is very common and happening everywhere.
Exactly. And like with you starting all of this, like what is the goal of you like taking on this mission?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, with regard to the movement Trafficking Hub, my goal with that is to actually shut down Pornhub and hold its executives accountable. And the reason why I think that such a dramatic response is called for is because, when people like Harvey Weinstein were caught raping women, he wasn't allowed to just say sorry and then go on with his career in Hollywood. That's not what justice is. That's not how the law works. Real justice means real serious consequences to the full extent of the law. And then to use that as an example for others to say, we will not put up with this kind of abuse. And so that's what I want to see specifically for Pornhub. But I think even more important than that, I want to see laws put in place, and I want to see corporate policy put in place that would rein in this kind of abuse from proliferating and stop and prevent it from happening in the future. And I think that is super important to focus on.
Yeah. So like, I know, for instance, like in my case, since I was one of the victims of the iCloud hack leak, it's like so strange because when it was like all over the news and all over Google and stuff, first of all, the hacker, he auctioned it off 2 months prior to, all of this, right? So everybody knew like, oh my God, they're being auctioned off online, and nobody was doing anything about it. Like Google is just watching, like the whole world is watching on the internet that all these women are being auctioned off, right? Like literally we're just standing there and they're like, how much do you want to pay for this one? How much you want to pay for this one? And everybody's just watching this abuse happening, and then next thing you know, it gets leaked. And now everybody's watching the videos. Everybody knows it's against consent. It's not just me, it's like 99 other women, big names like Jennifer Lawrence and Kate Upton, like really big, successful, talented, admired, powerful, rich women that have worked very, very hard to get to where they are at. And they're being auctioned off. They're being trafficked in front of everybody's eyes. Everybody knows it's against consent. So where is the law? Why isn't anybody doing anything about this? So what do you think needs to happen, as far as the laws changing? Because I know, like, it's so outdated, like, and it's just watching everybody get abused like that, like, it's just mind-blowing to me, like everybody just watching digital rape happening and trafficking happening, and nobody's doing anything.
Yes, I think that what has to happen is, well, we need to enforce the laws that we currently have first and foremost. I think that these criminals are emboldened because they realize that nobody's going to do anything about it. And the risk, doesn't outweigh the benefit they get from the exploitation that they're engaged in. And so I think it needs to shift, and the risk has to be very high. They have to think that they will get held accountable for what they're doing. Yeah. And I think that would deter so many abusers from actually acting out. But we also need to update our laws, because a lot of the legislation that we have, and even the corporate policies that we have, are outdated, and they haven't really evolved with the digital age of everything being online, and the proliferation of the distribution of pornographic content, for example, going from DVDs and CDs and actual like physical shops to actually being distributed on these major user-generated websites where they're not verifying the age or the consent of the millions of people who are in those videos. And that's just outrageous. Sometimes when people hear it, they can't believe that these sites are mass distributing to 130 million visitors per day, 47 billion visitors per year, 7 million videos distributed and uploaded every year. And they're not verifying that the person in the video agreed to be in the video, wanted to be filmed, and wanted to be uploaded online. And I think that is just a starting point to have laws that require consent verification and age verification to make sure they're also not teenagers that are underage or tweens that are in these videos. And I think that would go a long way to prevent abuse.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much content out there, and somebody just needs an email address and can upload whatever they want. They can just literally download whatever video, even if they like recorded a rape or something, and then just upload it straight to Pornhub or any of the porn sites, and then later like profit from it. So I think that's what's so hard for people to understand, because they're watching all these porn sites, and obviously they're watching it because they want to pleasure themselves and they want to, enjoy themselves in the moment, but they don't actually understand that some of the content, if not a lot of the content, is not even with consent. So like how would you go about that? Like, I mean, there's no way of knowing, right? Like, of what
there has to be kind of an evolution of the porn distribution online, the way that it's being done, and move away from this model of just unlimited, unverified uploads of user-generated content on these free porn tube sites. Yeah. I think that would be beneficial for everybody. I think it not only would benefit victims, but also those who are in the porn industry, the legal industry. They've been harmed as well by this model of distribution where anybody could steal content. They could get criminal. They can literally go into a hotel room, film a rape, and upload it with any verification of the age and consent of the person in the video. I mean, as of December 2020, when the New York Times had released this huge damning op-ed called "The Children of Pornhub," all it took to upload to Pornhub and the world's most popular tube sites is, like you said, an email address. Mm-hmm. That's it. And so, of course, these sites are going to become infested with crime scenes of non-consensual criminal content if they're not taking those steps. And so I think that is such an important measure that just seems so common sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you even imagine that isn't happening? A lot of people can't, but that's the reality. And that's what we really need to focus on, changing that.
And for instance, a lot of these companies too, they know that they have systems like the fingerprint stamp, which basically scans a video and doesn't allow people to re-upload some content that's, without consent. So my other question is, why aren't they implementing a fingerprint stamp on something that they know is non-consensual the first time, and not just keep letting people upload the same content? Like, they should just implement it right away and prevent people from being able to upload that same video. And why aren't they just putting on the ID and the letter of consent before uploading? Like, it's just a technology kind of like thing that they have to just add to their sites, right? It
Well,
just
the only way that you would understand why is to know their business model. And
yeah.
the business model relies on unlimited content. They have to have millions upon millions of videos uploaded in order to get all of those search results in Google, in order to drive 47 billion visits to the site per year, so they can sell advertising on all this free porn mixed with free crime scene videos. And they have ads that are placed all over the videos, before, after, in the middle of the videos. And so if they don't have a large amount of content, they won't get those search results. They won't become top result in Google. They won't have the traffic. They won't have the money. So it all comes down to profit. It all comes down to money and the business model of, when they start putting limits on uploads, when they start wanting to verify things, that causes friction in their uploading, and less people might upload. Maybe they don't have 7 million videos uploaded. Maybe they only have 3, but that affects the bottom line, the profit. And that's the motivation behind the way that these sites are operating. And it really has to change. They need to put people and their lives over profit when it comes to the non-consensual distribution of this content that is destroying and shattering people's lives. And victims have often said it's the immortalization of their trauma. It's the idea that this event that happened to them, whether it was consensual or non-consensual in the first place, they didn't consent to it being uploaded online. And then that when people are watching that for profit and pleasure forever, I mean, you would know more than anybody else that is so traumatic for them, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, I think what's so sad about all of that happening is, like, it was a, intimate moment, and in that moment you're just being a regular person, regular adult, for some people, and then others obviously are actually getting raped, and then that's being distributed. But in my situation, it was just, I mean, I'm just a regular functioning adult. Like, I'm doing what you're supposed to do when you're in a relationship, so. And then all of a sudden now the whole world look at you as like some kind of whore, or this person that does porn, or this, it creates this whole image of you that don't even exist. No matter how much integrity you have, no matter how hard you worked, or whatever you accomplish in life, it's like constantly making you look like something that you're not. And it's so minimizing of your character and everything, right? So it's just so heartbreaking to see. Like, imagine now this happening to a little girl that's a teenage girl, and then she grows up and it haunts her whole life. Like, at least this happened to me when I was an adult, but even then it's like every guy I would date will bring it up, every guy's family will bring it up, my family will bring it up, like my friends of friends, constantly people talking about you, making, like, asking questions about it, maybe not to your face, but through other people that I know. And they give you looks, and it's just those things that you just know, like, oh, this person have watched this also against my consent. And that's another thing, like, people know it's against consent and they continuously watch it. So
That's why what you're doing is so important in speaking out about this and educating people on what actually happened, and how it affected you. And I think a big thing that we need to overcome is all of this blaming and shaming and victim blaming, especially when it comes to non-consensually distributed content, image-based abuse. I feel like it's, when people know that there's been a rape or, an instance of child abuse, it's easier for them to have compassion on that victim And in many cases, when it comes to other forms of image-based abuse, which are, I don't know if it's just as, but, levels of trauma, you can't compare trauma, right? For one person, it might affect them differently than another person, but it's still traumatic. It's abuse. They're victims. And I think that that's what people really have to understand and stop victim blaming and stop shaming and start having compassion and start thinking that could be you, or it could be your child, or it could be your sister or brother. And then start acting on that to stop this kind of image-based abuse. It's so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, I think that's what people are, they just kind of having like a disconnection sometimes, because they're looking at it as like, oh, it's somebody over there, or it's somebody in the public eye. And like, this could happen to anyone. Like when I just started pursuing, like actually like looking into the laws and everything that's happening, I started realizing, oh my God, there's so many, regular people that like have regular jobs, living like a regular life, maybe even they're married, and maybe they're underage, and there's all these different factors. At first I thought this didn't happen as much to underage girls, but now I'm starting to see like, oh my God, this is happening to way more than what I ever would have ever imagined. Like I knew about like child pornography and stuff like that being leaked, or people distributing stuff like that, but I didn't know that it's on like actual porn sites, and like people are just watching it, and next thing you know, you might be watching something, and then something else pops up after, and all of a sudden there's like, there it is, and it's so like, I mean, like imagine if you're like somebody that's watching that, and then you're watching something, and all of a sudden this young looking girl comes on there, but she's actually underage, and you're like over there pleasuring yourself to it, and it's just like, what is happening,
Well, people have to realize that if these sites like Pornhub are only verifying now recently the uploader of the content, but not consistently verifying the individuals who are in the videos. Some sites like X videos and others, they're not even doing that right now. It's just completely unverified. So how in the world, and then they say, well, we have moderators that are viewing that content. Well, could any human being on a consistent basis tell the difference between a 16-year-old body and an 18-year-old body? Even a 15-year-old body, maybe, a mature 14-year-old body and an 18-year-old body on any kind of consistent basis. Not even a pediatrician could do that. It's impossible to do that.
Yeah.
And so if they're not verifying ID, and they have all these kind of teen looking bodies in these videos, you have no idea how many of those are actually underage. It's a federal crime to distribute that content, or to download it, or to watch it. And so people have to be aware that that's the reality on these sites.
Yeah. No, but that's super good that you're like actually explaining all this, because I don't think people understand it. And like, I know from my own experience what happened, but then when I started looking into all this, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much stuff going on, and it's so ugly, and it's so dirty, and it's like people need to know about this. So that's why I was like, Laila, you need to come on my podcast and talk about this, because there's so many layers to this, and we're just getting like the surface. But yeah, like there's so much more that people need to know. So like, as far as people like, finding you and look you up and all your work and everything, where can they find you? And or if they're, for instance, a survivor or a victim, like where can they kind of reach out to you for help and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I am constantly posting about this issue of, holding these big porn free tube sites accountable for the enabling and distributing sexual crime. And I'm doing that on Twitter. and I'm doing that on Instagram. So my handle is at Laila Mickelwait, and you can find me constantly posting about this and all the news that's happening. Right now, there's many different lawsuits even being filed. Last I counted, it was 97 individual lawsuits on behalf of 191 victims in Canada and the United States that have come forward to hold these abusers accountable. And so, if you've been victimized and you're hearing about this, I founded an organization called the Justice Defense Fund. And our purpose is to empower survivors to pursue justice in a holistic way. And through civil litigation. And so you can actually go to justicedefensefund.org. You could fill out a form there. It's just like a simple form. If you wanted to reach out and get connected with any kind of help, or even just to share what happened to you. I know that sometimes it's really a part of the healing process just to even say, this happened to me too. And to be able to say that, and that's important. And so reach out and follow me. And if you want to sign the petition to hold Pornhub accountable for aiding sex trafficking and profiting from that, that's at traffickinghubpetition.com. You could do it there. You could join 2 million other people. Now it's 2.2 million people from 192 countries that have signed that petition to hold Pornhub and its executives accountable. So you can do that as well.
Wow, that's crazy. 2 million signups. Yeah, we're going to keep that going, but that's like crazy. Like that's a lot of signups on the petition. You would have thought like just with the signups alone, you would be like, oh, look at this. Like, we need to change the law. Just look at all these signups, But we're going to get more signups and all that good stuff. So make sure you guys go and sign it up and follow her. I'm going to put all of her links in the description too, so you can follow her directly. And thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so happy you could get on the podcast and my show or whatnot and tell people and explain a little bit more how all of this stuff kind of works behind the scenes when they don't know what they're actually watching, So it's very, very helpful what you're doing. And I think you're an angel personally. You're coming down.
That means the most coming from a survivor. I mean,
no, you are, because you're just it's so crazy because I saw your page and I was just like, wow, she has you don't have all of these followers, that I might have or all these other people have. There's people that have 20 million, 30 million followers, and you have I don't know, 20, 30 something right? So, but it's those, what you're doing have so much more power, and you have so much more power than someone that has 100 million followers or 200 million followers. What you're doing, it's up tier kind of stuff. And it's you could tell God is on your side, all the angels are on your side. It's they're pushing you and you're just going, you have no fear, you have nothing, you're just going for it. So I'm really impressed by
you're tearing me up.
No, but you're bringing, you're what you're doing is I never seen anything like it. And when I saw your page, you're gonna make me tear up now, but I was wow, I'm so impressed by this woman, and she's so strong. There's some people that saying bad things about you, but you're just I'm just gonna keep going, and I'm fighting for all these survivors. And it's
well, anything that I'm doing is nothing compared to the strength and bravery it takes to go through what you went through, and then to be standing there and to be speaking out and trying to change things and trying to change laws and telling your story. And you may be inspired by me, but I am very inspired by you. And it's survivors like you that just are what are the inspiration. And I'm just so grateful for you. And so thank you for doing everything you're doing. And thanks for giving me a space here to speak about this work. And I'm here to support you through your journey as well.
Well, thank you so much. I'm getting all teary-eyed, like we're having a moment, but like I'm just so happy I could do this and I found you and all that good stuff. So yeah, thanks for doing the show. I
Thank
appreciate you.
you.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it
much. All
doing.
right.
All right, okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.